Hello, I'm Bob Schieffer, and welcome to the CBS Evening News online edition. Just ahead, Dana Reeve, widow of actor Christopher Reeve, has died of lung cancer at 44. Richard Schlesinger will have details. Also, we'll continue our look at a lawless part of South America where smuggling and money laundering may be funding Middle East terror. And the author of the Da Vinci Code is the main character in a new mystery, this one in a courtroom. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News online edition. She was a gifted actress in her own right, but Americans came to know and love Dana Reeve because of her advocacy for the disabled, which grew out of her compassion and the years that she spent caring for her paralyzed husband, Christopher Reeve, the actor. But now she has lost her own battle to lung cancer, one of a growing number of women who have fallen victim to this disease, even though they are non-smokers. We're beginning our coverage of this story tonight with Richard Schlesinger.
For years, Dana and Christopher Reeve's story has been almost impossible to ignore. It embraced the great themes, love and hope, setback and tragedy. When Christopher Reeve, the leading man of the Superman movies, was left paralyzed, Dana Reeve, who had her own career as a performer, largely gave it up to stand by her husband physically and emotionally. Peter Kiernan was a close friend of the Reeves.
Because I promise it was no photo op. It was as genuine as it appeared to be. This was a very special love story.
As he struggled against an unforgiving injury, the spotlight on both of them reflected glimmers of hope.
There's always going to be turns. We had hopes for how our life was going to go. It didn't go like we planned at all. So we've adjusted. Now we're on this road, and we have hopes on this road.
The road ended in 2004 when an infection took Chris Reeve's life.
11 days ago, Chris died, and when he died, a light went out in my life.
With all eyes now on her, Dana Reeve became the public face of the Christopher Reeve Foundation, devoted to finding new treatments for paralysis, especially stem cells. And then, last August, she stepped into her final role. She announced she had lung cancer.
And I'll tell you, it's another journey, and I'm ready to be finished with the journey. So thank you very much.
It was a shocking announcement from a woman who reported she didn't smoke.
I've got a warm place to sleep.
And a woman who had been through so much already.
If anybody deserved a fresh start, it was Dana Reeve.
And in the midst of her own struggle, she remembered the lessons learned from her late husband's fight.
He taught me so much about courage and about going forward, and he really lives with me in this. And I think that, again, I'm very, very lucky.
Dana Reeve was just 44 when she died. She left behind the couple's son, Will, who's 13 years old, and according to the Christopher Reeve Foundation, is being cared for by family and friends. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
Last night, we took you to a place in South America that has become a lawless center for smuggling, counterfeiting, and gun running that is costing legitimate businesses in North America hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But in tonight's report, Trish Regan reveals an even more startling discovery that much of this illicit activity is being used to fund Middle Eastern terrorists. Here's part two of Trish's report on what we are calling the crossroads of crime.
Each year, thousands of tourists are drawn to the beauty of Iguazu Falls in an undeveloped area of South America where Paraguay, Brazil, and Argentina meet, the tri-border region. Here, a large, influential Arab population flourishes, many of them reaping huge profits in a variety of illegal activities. Members of the American military have charged the region harbors radical Islamic terrorists, and the tri-border is a growing threat to U.S. security interests.
Billions of dollars flow through these streets every year. Basically, there's nothing done to stop illegal trade. Paraguay's money laundering laws are seldom enforced, and there's little interest in knowing where this money ends up.
There is so much illegal activity, from the counterfeiting of all kinds of goods, to drugs, to weapons, to terrorist fundraising and money laundering.
Walt Purdy of Washington's Terrorism Research Center has been tracking activity in the tri-border for years.
Who do you think is down there?
Everybody from Hezbollah to people who are connected to Al-Qaeda. They've used it to raise money. They've used it for a safe haven.
According to U.S. and Israeli intelligence, Ciudad del Este served as the launch pad for the Hezbollah car bombing attacks on the Israeli embassy in Argentina in 1992 and the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires in 1994. Over the last decade, the area has grown increasingly into a terrorist hiding place.
The idea here is accessibility with no records, anonymity at all costs.
Tom Cash oversaw Latin America for the Drug Enforcement Administration in the 1990s. He says the tri-border is a terrorist paradise.
It's not catch me if you can type territory because nobody's even going to be looking.
Local authorities did arrest one tri-border resident, Assad Ahmad Barakat, a suspected Lebanese terrorist financier, but not on charges that he contributed to terror organizations, because in Paraguay, that's legal. Instead, he faced much lesser charges of tax evasion. An examination of Barakat's bank records have led authorities to believe he wired as much as $50 million to terror groups. He even got a thank you note. CBS News secured a copy of a handwritten letter from the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, personally thanking Barakat for his contributions.
If we don't take enough aggressive measures to cut off that funding, maybe the funding and the manufacturing of counterfeit goods in South America will one day finance an attack on us.
Counterterrorism sources say the group Hamas, set to take over the Palestinian government, is sending delegations to the tri-border in an effort to raise money. The concern is that groups like this will work with other terror groups in the region. And as we now know, Bob, they have the money, and this is an area that they can move very freely in.
Terrorists who send thank you notes. I'm glad you're out of there. The Da Vinci Code has become more than just a best-selling book. With 40 million copies sold and a Tom Hanks movie coming this spring, it's an international phenomenon. But two writers are trying to convince a judge that author Dan Brown used more than divine inspiration to write his blockbuster. As Richard Roth reports tonight from London, though, it may be a very tough case to make.
We are in the middle of a war.
The Da Vinci Code's war in court has been going on less than a week, but today Dan Brown's bestseller won its first battle. Asked on the witness stand if part of his claim for copyright infringement is untruthful, Holy Blood, Holy Grail co-author Michael Bajent conceded, "You are right. An omen some experts think of how tough it'll be to win the case against the code."
It's really about the use of somebody's idea, and you can't have a monopoly of an idea. You have to say, this person has copied chunks of my text, and that they can't do.
Both books explore a theory that Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene married and had a child whose descendants are still around, and that the Catholic Church wants that kept secret. Brown's book does acknowledge Holy Blood, Holy Grail, even calling its villain Leigh Teabing, a scrambling of the other authors' names, Leigh and Bajent. Their complaint is they were first, and that's not enough credit. The lawsuit's seeking about a $150 million share of the Da Vinci Code profits. But there's also a twist to this legal plot that could affect what's coming soon to a theater near me.
You and I, Robert, we have observed history.
In Britain, the Da Vinci Code movie due out in May could be delayed if Brown's book loses, but it won't, predicts newspaper publisher Andrew Neil.
The Da Vinci Code is a dripping roast, and everybody wants a share of the drips, and it's just too big a target. I mean, he's already been hit by one action. This is a second one, and it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, even the publishers of the two books are the same. Nobody loses from this.
In fact, internet sales of the Challenger's book jumped 3,500% just one day after the case here began. Richard Roth, CBS News, London.
More stories are just a click away, but don't forget to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Wednesday's broadcast, some say one answer to America's energy problem is in the Gulf of Mexico. But critics say going after it could cause an environmental disaster. We'll take a hard look. For CBSNews.com, I'm Bob Schieffer.